The ending of a video game, in most cases, should serve to tie up some loose ends in the story, make the player feel satisfied, and possibly make room for a future sequel. But when players with dumb luck or maybe too much time on their hands uncover hidden endings in some of the most popular titles, we instead get the opposite, asking questions which we may never know the answer to. And if weird, disturbing, and downright creepy moments in gaming that were maybe better off being kept secret is your kind of thing, then let's get into 8 secret video game endings that shocked players. Spoiler warning, by the way. Stanley Parable, the art ending. Originally starting out as a mod for Half-Life 2, Stanley Parable's popularity led to the release of the standalone game released just 2 years later. The standalone game received even more traction than the mod and left a mark in the decision and choice-making gaming category. The story will always start the same, with the narrator popping in to talk and guide you in certain parts. But depending on where the player goes and what they do, the story will branch off into different areas and ultimately to one of 19 different endings. From being grounded for 100 billion trillion years or making it to a button-filled heaven, any one of these endings could have ended up on this list. But I've decided on the art ending, mostly out of respect for the patience that some players had to find it. After navigating through a confusing series of doors and sequences, you can reach a room where you play an odd game of trying to save a baby from this fire by pressing the button before the baby begins crawling towards it again. After pressing the button a few more times, the narrator tells you to continue this for 4 hours. Pretty funny, right? No, not funny. That's actually what you have to do if you want to get this ending. The narrator will pop in every once in a while, and for the first 2 hours it's just pressing this button over and over again. But after that, the final 2 hours change because now there's a dog in a bucket with another button. You have to press this blue button to prevent the dog from reaching a piranha-filled pool while also keeping the baby from reaching the fire, all the while hearing the cry of the baby and the annoying noise the buttons make after being pressed. Having to move between the 2 buttons for 4 hours is hard enough, but if you let the dog get too low or the baby touch the fire, you have to restart the entire process. But if you've managed to make it to the end with your sanity still intact, then the room will begin to shake and your character is met with a being known as the Essence of Divine Art, who tells you that when you die, you'll be carried to its garden where you'll perform improv comedy based on the suggestions of the entity for all eternity. You know, a simple achievement would have probably been appreciated, but if you thought this was weird, just pace yourself. Inside, Human Blob. Inside is a puzzle game that released in 2016. Developed by Playdead, this is the same group who made Limbo, another puzzle game, with that one being in the platformer category, and this game, Inside, being a 2.5D type of thing. Both of these games have a kind of weird core mysterious aesthetic, and they both received amazing feedback. And where the first game lacked in some departments such as storytelling and playtime length, Inside pretty much worked to perfect those parts. And they did so pretty successfully, winning Game of the Year, and if there was a creepiest ending of the year for a game award, it would have won that too, trust me. This one is not so much of a secret ending as it is part of the main story, but it's no doubt shocking. Towards the end of the game, your character, who has broken into some sort of scientist facility where mind control experiments are being performed on people, the boy will run into what is called the Huddle or the Blob, a large mass of flesh with multiple arms, legs, and heads sticking out of it. While trying to free the Blob from a water tank, the boy becomes a part of the Blob in the process, leaving you to escape the facility as the Blob, who makes very disturbing grunts and groans all the while, until you finally escape to the outside world, rolling down towards the beach and lying helpless as the sun comes up just before the end credits begin rolling. The ending has never been given an explanation by the developers and is more so open to interpretation. With the game's main theme being mind control, one of the theories is that the Blob somehow managed to manipulate your character to finding and freeing it from the facility, allowing it to finally be at peace. Heavy Rain's bad endings. I'm sure everyone has played Heavy Rain, or at least I can only hope they did. Released back in 2010, Heavy Rain follows 4 different characters, all involved in the mystery of the origami killer, whose victims he drowns in the water when it rains. It was one of the earlier games that introduced multiple choices that will eventually affect the narrative and outcome of the game. However, my little brain couldn't understand that concept, and it only occurred to me later on in life life that there were 7 different endings to this game. Eventually your son Sean will go missing, and the origami killer gives Ethan Mars clues that would lead him to finding his son before time is up and Sean eventually dies. Most of the several endings are good, with only one playable character either dying or living, and Sean and Ethan being just fine in most cases. And that's probably the ending most people will get their first time around. However, there are some darker endings in the game that could be triggered if you make the wrong choices. One where Ethan is shot dead while trying to save Sean, another where Ethan survives but Sean is killed by the origami killer, leaving Ethan feeling guilty and depressed and ultimately shooting himself. This is known as the Origami Blues ending, and is the second worst ending you could get in the game, with the absolute worst ending being the helpless ending. In this storyline, Sean dies, as well as another playable character, Madison Page. Ethan is framed as being the origami killer before being sent to jail. With origami figures scattered throughout his cell, it's pretty obvious that Ethan is suffering from the loss of his son and the fact that he's been framed. He steps on top of a small stool before the camera pans up, revealing a noose before he ends it all. Yeah, pretty dark. Silent Hill 2 Dog Ending. Silent Hill not only tells one but multiple great stories, and even though these endings aren't canon and more so serve as joke endings, they're interesting nonetheless. One example are the reputable UFO endings that are included in most of the Silent Hill games, and if you're interested in that topic, there's a really well made video by Silent Hillside who goes through the whole thing. So anyways, how do you get the dog ending? Well, in Silent Hill 2 you can find a dog key in the Lakeview Hotel. Head to the observation room on the 3rd floor of the hotel, and by using the key we clip through the door and we meet Myra the dog, who has been controlling everything that's going on with Silent Hill. James then expresses his disbelief in Japanese before the credits roll, and yeah, it's so good. Personally, I take this as the true canon ending. It makes so much sense. Take the JoyPill, We Happy Few. We Happy Few is an adventure survival horror game that I haven't got to play yet. You take control over one of 3 characters, who are each seeking to complete a personal task while escaping the in-game city known as Wellington Wells, a dystopia whose population partakes in the overuse of a hallucinogenic drug that keeps the inhabitants of Wellington Wells happy and blissfully unaware of the true dismal, war-torn state of their world. In the game, that hallucinogenic drug is known as JoyPills. At the start of the game, you get a choice to take your JoyPill or stop taking the pills and search for your brother Percy. The game makes it pretty obvious that JoyPills are just a way to keep everyone in a slave-like state, so odds are you're not gonna take the pill. However, because you're given a choice, and if you do take the pill, the game is cut short, with Arthur staying happy under the influence of the drug, and the game ending in under 2 minutes. Firing into the Sun, The Outer Worlds. Outer Worlds is a first-person sci-fi RPG that was released in 2019, taking place in an alternate future that diverged in 1901. It's got a good story that I won't get into too much, as it's just very hard to explain without confusing you. The gameplay is similar in a way to the Fallout games. That's because this game was developed by Obsidian Entertainment, who also developed Fallout New Vegas. This game, much like the others on this list, has a few different endings, 3 to be exact. The good ending, a bad ending, and an ending you can only reach if you're stupid enough. Not you being stupid, I'm talking about your character, stupid. In the game, there is an intelligence status, and if your character's intelligence is extremely low as you try to pilot a ship called the Hope, your character will end up losing control and driving right into the sun, ending your character's life and the game. This one isn't necessarily easy to get, as you have to get such low intelligence that you'd have to plan this out as you're playing the game in order to make your character as dumb as possible. Drakengard Baby Ending. Drakengard on PlayStation 2 is the first and most popular game of the action RPG series. Released in 2003, it takes place in a fantasy version of medieval Europe known as Midgard. The world is overseen by a group of unnamed gods who are served by another group in the game known as the Watchers. The Watchers are entities that were created to destroy humanity because they are considered a failure. The Watchers carry a set of seals which keep the world in balance, and should the seals be damaged or destroyed, the Watchers would enter into the world and destroy humanity. In one of the game's endings, known as Ending D, the main protagonist Kane's main mission of bringing down an evil empire is successful. However, he fails to protect 3 of the seals, meaning the Watchers would now come down and destroy the human race. Everything up until this point is going pretty smooth in Ending D, until you realize that the Watchers are actually giant floating babies. I don't even know why they're so scary. I think it's because they have like a full set of teeth maybe. The giant babies are led by an even larger baby called the Mother. You defeat the Mother by playing a rhythm game, but are shot down soon after by the Japanese Air Force, leaving Kane's body impaled on the Tokyo Tower. I think by adding the babies to the game, this could have easily fallen into the horror category. Cremated, Hitman Bloodmoney. Hitman Bloodmoney's story ends with Agent 47 being apparently betrayed by Diana, who injects him with a poison that seems to kill him. However, Diana actually injected Agent 47 with a serum that induces a death-like state. The main antagonist, Kane, then holds a funeral for 47 that would end with him being cremated. As the funeral is taking place, the game's end credits begin rolling, leaving us to believe our character is dead. But by pressing any button as the credits are rolling, we actually find out that you can begin moving around again, because you're not actually dead, just in a death-like state. So you come back to life, murder Kane, and the game ends. But what would happen if you just let the credits roll? Well, if you don't move or touch any buttons, the credits will continue and we can see Agent 47 actually gets lowered down to be cremated. The game stops short before we can see that cue ball head being torched, but get this, players actually discovered a rendered modeled cremation chamber below where Agent 47 dies in the secret ending, meaning the developers might have actually planned to show the cremation. Well, we got one more final shocking ending to go through, so let's...
That's cringe.